the Countryside Podcasts with Chris Skinner.
Morning, everybody. It's exactly 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've just walked down the farmyard because we now have 21 swallows have returned, and I'm standing in the old stable block, and one of the horses is nibbling my shoulder this morning. She's called Betty. And I've got swallows all round me, so I hope, apart from the munching of the horses finishing their hay off, you can hear a swallow doing its dawn chorus. It's barely light in the stables. And right outside the stable door is a giant old oak tree, right in the middle of the farmyard, and high up in the branches, blackbird. Lots of lesser black-backed gulls flying over from the coast, probably Braden water, heading further inland, hoping to meet up with some farmer tilling some soil and providing worms for breakfast. Just come back in the stables, a couple of steps, see if we can hear some more of that wonderful swallow. Yes, it's dawn chorus time. Middle of April to the middle of May, and it's always worth just opening the bedroom window if you don't fancy an early morning walk, and enjoying what nature gives us for free. Dawn chorus. Welcome to the Countryside Podcasts for this week's edition.
Just about to set out on our way into the farm, Chris, and look what we've seen.
Matthew, what a sight. We have well over 20 swallows. I think the latest count's 25 adult swallows have returned to High Ash Farm, which I'm thrilled with. That's a really good return. Still arriving, more and more coming. And just where the girls, the livery here, fill all their horse buckets up to give horses fresh water, there's a bit of a spillage, and it runs on the farmyard a little bit, which is mainly shingle. But where I wash the tractors, there's some very, very valuable mud there. I wasn't allowed to play with mud as a child, but I've made up for it now. And just as we drove down the yard, an adult male swallow with a glorious sheen on its back in the early morning sunshine, a bright red chin strap, just came down right beside the truck as we drove past, gathered some straw and then some mud. Oh, you've got another one. I can't quite see. Oh, yeah, look, 8 feet away, straw and mud, and that's another pellet, and it's gone straight into the stables.
Oh, well, there's swallows flying everywhere, very low to the ground. But that swallow that arrived already had straw in his beak.
Yes, and mixed it with mud, and that's the essential ingredient all over the world in poor countries. houses are made of mud, wattle and some straw mixed in, and the old clay block buildings around the farm here, exactly the same. Clay blocks and mixed with straw and a bit of saliva mixed in, and they'll add a layer. So nest building happens early in the morning. By lunchtime, they let that mud, that fresh sort of gooey mud, all dry off, and then they add another layer the next day. And they're making some new nests, cleaning out some of the old nests as well, and doing a repair. So they get on with that. The females are itching to lay eggs. They've come up or sort of laden with their eggs ready to go. So it's frantic, and they just don't stop. They're tireless birds. I love them, but to have two land right beside where we are, that's quite something.
Yeah, we were just in the truck and setting off somewhere else, and yes, and there he was, doing his building.
Yes, nest building. So it's all happening here, and that's the exciting thing about podcasts. You go through the 4 seasons, and there's always something, either the birds leaving or birds arriving.
Here we are.
Yeah, you got another one.
Another one. Yes. This one has got a length of straw, right the length of his back.
Yes.
He's had it in between his tail.
Yes.
Now, straight. They're all going into that.
They're going all over, because their nests in all the stables here. There's around 20 odd stables in the farmyard itself, so it's not a huge livery where you have stabled horses. But one of the newer blocks I've done a double roof on, and because it's corrugated roof, and I've put another one over the top of it so it's insulated, so it doesn't get too hot for the chicks. And starling just gone in to the nest hole in the end.
Wow.
And just above it, 24 sparrow nest boxes, and they're all, and that's what modern farming can be about. It's changing it from that hostile, sterile place that this was as an intensive arable farmer, and make it more environmentally friendly.
But you've still got an efficient, clean working environment here,
yes.
But you've accommodated the birds as well.
I've got them back, because I feel as a custodian of the countryside, and bearing in mind the Norfolk mottos do different. So instead of get off my land, it's come and walk on it and enjoy the countryside. And just look up above our head there, 42 sparrow nest boxes all in a row. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can only see the first 5 boxes because of the angle I've parked at. And they're all the male sparrows, and the females have already laid their first clutches of eggs and are waiting for the first hatching.
The males are all out there balancing on the edge and taking the morning air, aren't they? Puffing their chests out.
Yeah, well, I'm puffing my chest out now, because what a lovely...
I didn't notice, I must say.
Thank you. That's a lovely way to start the podcast off. And because they've come that huge journey up from South Africa, and, we'll be talking about huge journeys when we go round on the farm this morning, because we're going to celebrate something, if you like, that is just about completed the biggest journey that you could possibly do. Oh, look, a swallow back again on the mud, picking mud up, and it's got a 4-inch length of hay, and it's
straight into the stable once again. They are so industrious, these birds.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's why I love them. They're tireless birds of summer, and I always think, as we sort of approach May, it's just the beginning of summer. They say one swallow doesn't make a summer, but my summer's already here when the swallows have arrived.
We've got some blue sky today. It's nice and bright. It's not too chilly either, so we're going to have a good time.
We are. Let's start the truck, get ourselves out of the farmyard and into the real countryside.
Out onto the farm, and the leaves are out on the trees now. It happens all of a sudden, doesn't it?
It does. It's verdant, and the beech trees, there's lovely avenues of beech. We're beside Kentley Hill Plantation this morning. It's got some sharp escarpments in it, just glacial dumps, how the glaciers, when they melted, sort of dropped all the debris in the ice sheets itself, and you'd have these very sharp rises, almost like river cliffs, and really underneath us a chalk. We're at the bottom of one of the hills, and it's absolutely drought stricken here. This is the least amount of rain from March to the end of April, which we are at, that I think I've ever recorded. And so something quite amazing has happened in front of us, because these woods are full of bluebells, and in this slope in front of us it is just drought stricken. I'll explain. If we just walk forwards a little bit and have a look at the soil type, it's gravel full of stone. There, all the stones sort of clicking together. You could almost lay this down the drive. It's full of shingle, and if I just scrape a little bit of soil up and let go, it's like egg timer sand. You can see it just blows away. So there is no moisture here whatsoever. The bluebells have come up full of promise, and you can see the leaves look as though they've been scorched with boiling water. They've all gone brown tips. Now, they've gone into kind of emergency mode. I don't think I've ever recorded this before. There's not enough water for them to come into flower. They've come into leaf, the sun's shining on them, and so the energy in the leaves is going into the bulbs for 2026. So they should survive, but it takes extra energy from the bulb to produce the flower and then the seed. So they've not done that. You can see right at the top of the hill there are bluebells in flower, which we'll visit in a moment, because there's a cap of clay up there on top of the hill, and clay, a much finer soil particle size, is really good at moisture retention.
It just holds the water
Yes.
in, but that's only about 3/4 of the way up.
Yes.
But normally you'd have a bluebell display right down to where we're standing.
Exactly that. And so the bluebells are there, no or virtually no flowers. I mean,
Just
when we look
the odd
up,
one
there's
here.
just a few just coming in. The flowers over there just look impoverished. They've come into flower and they've wilted, and the little flower heads have done. Some are just coming out here. This little clump near us must have got a bit of moisture, but barely anything. But don't be too depressed, because at High Ash we do things in style. The flower count each year that I do, we put a metre square down on the woodland floor and then multiply it up by the area that we have with bluebells, and there's well over 80 million bluebell blooms here. That's more than one for everybody in the country, but we're not going to pick them, so don't worry.
Because the plantation here is different to the other area, isn't
Yes.
it? And are there so many problems with the drought over the other side?
No, it's peat on the other side of the farm, on the woodland. And really, well, we'll just drive a few hundred yards further down this belt of woodland and just enjoy them as they should be. But there's a kind of mystery here, because when we look over on the other side of the field, quite close to Caister Lane, which goes through the middle of the farm, there are two Romano-Celtic temples. The first one is just a Celtic temple, and the Romans built another one on the top of it. And there's a question that's never been answered as to why they put the temples there, and it might be because of the bluebells here. It can be something like that. There's some feature that the Druids back then, the sort of early Iron Age settlers here at the farm, Boudica was the queen, obviously, so they were all here before the Romans were here. And there's a question as to why they put these temples there. They're amazing structures, one temple on top of another.
So this yearly display of the bluebells, amazing looking thing, all those thousands of years ago,
Yes.
it would have appealed to them as something very special.
That's the living heritage. Nobody can answer it. It's just because I see it. You know, I've seen it right from my childhood to where I am now at the other end of my life, if you like. And it's just awe-inspiring. We'll drive a bit further down because they're very resilient. They're a British native flower, and you won't see them anywhere as profuse as you do in the British Isles. They really only grow on coasts fringing the Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea round, and over in Europe, which is not far away, they don't have the displays like this that we have here. So
And this is their time of year, late April,
yes,
early May.
As I said, the seasons and everything that happens in them move on so quickly. So we'd better move quickly down to the other end of the wood and enjoy what they really can do. Just come on, pop back in the truck. Can you get the perfume?
Wow, yes. Chris, bluebells.
Yes. Look at this. The sun has obligingly just come out through the trees. The oaks are just coming into flower. Some of the oaks are just in leaf, and you get this lovely variety of different greens, particularly on the beech trees.
And the sun coming through the branches here,
Yes.
just illuminating the display.
Yeah, and they go on and on and on through. I mean, it's what I call why I get excited and sort of enthused about it is because it's the living heritage. We've got Romano Temple and the Iceni Temple on the other side of the field. That's history, man-made history gone past. This is the natural history. So forget, not me being rude, forget all the cathedrals and fancy churches and buildings which we revere. This is our heritage, the true heritage.
This is your open-air cathedral.
Look at that,
And
Matthew.
once a year, it never fails.
Look, and we've come a lot lower down. We just started the truck. I turned the engine off and we freewheeled best part of a quarter of a mile because we're heading downhill. The soil is much better here. Having said it, it's still light, sandy, gravelly soil, but it's got moisture in it, and it's not such a sharp escarpment. That means it hasn't sort of been exposed to the sun and the dry winds that we've had, and it is glorious.
And there's the perfume.
Yes, you're getting that waft this morning just coming through. The wind is in our face and it's blowing through this, and I just, there's no words to describe this. It's way past my vocabulary to try and capture it for everybody, but the trees with the low branches on and the light coming through, the perfume, the colour, and the fact that they've been here all my 75 years, and that's just a blip in time compared to how long I feel they have been here, because it's not possible to reclaim this. I don't know if the Romans had a go at growing vines and on here, because it's just unsuitable for agriculture. So that's why the woodlands here, and we've got the woodland flowers underneath, and it is, it needs protection while it's here, and I have custody of it. Then they're safe, because one thing you can't do is stand on them. The leaves are gathering the energy for next year. Sometimes, as a child, I used to pick a bunch or so for my mum, and I'd get told off if there's any white on the bottom of the stalks, because that means you'd pulled it out of the bulb. You could pick them and just chop them off. Rats just wandering off very delicately through them.
Yes, he knows your feeling about the bluebells. He's probably enjoying the perfume as well.
Well, no, he'd much rather have a rabbit or a stoat to smell, but he's using his nose, and I can see him going off through the bluebells. But you notice they're not as tall as normal. Normally, they'd be up to his shoulder. He's only 12 inches at the shoulder. He thinks he's much bigger, mind you, and
he will take on a horse.
Yes,
won't
he will take on anything that he dislikes. But the bluebells are only halfway up his shoulder, so they're only 6 to 8 inches high, about 150 mil to 200 mil high, and that's about half their normal height.
So though we've got blooms here, and there's a beautiful display this morning with the sun coming through, these are drought stricken as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole farm is, Matthew. We've got just on 100 acres, that's 40 hectares of overwinter wildbird seed mix to sow. The seed beds are all ready, but as soon as I go in with the cultivator, there's a cloud of dust behind me. That means the seed will lay there and not germinate. And although I'm very fond of feeding the rooks and all the birds on the farm, there's in the mix is mustard seed, wheat, barley, triticale, fodder radish, and wait for it, black sunflower seed. and the rooks thinks, oh, what a lovely farmer, who's put them in. And of course, as they're small seeds, a lot of them, you can't put them in the ground too deeply or they won't come up. So the rooks think it's heyday, and I'm just hiding the seed very gently for them, and they'll spend the next fortnight, if there's no rain, harvesting the seed that's meant for them later in the year.
Now, some eagle-eyed listeners, eagle-eared listeners will say, hang on, a week ago they were sheltering under an umbrella for dear life.
Yes, we were. That was 10 millimetres, and because the ground is so dry, I walked back up the farmyard. We were both soaked through, I'll be honest, and I just scraped the pea shingle, and just under half an inch down, the farmyard was still bone dry. The ground is parched, and when you have a quick burst like that, you have the impression that rainfall amounts have been put right in one go, and it's not like that this year. I think the total we've had is about 15-20 mil in 8 weeks, and it's a fraction of our normal rainfall. The old motto is April showers. We only had that one. We were out in it.
Yeah. It's like me with my first pint, isn't it? It doesn't touch the sides.
Oh, I don't know about that. No. Well, half a pint and I'm anybody's. So, dear, oh dear. Anyway, getting aside, this is our once-a-year visit, and we don't often come to this portion of woodland on the farm. We're nearly always in Fox's Grove, the other side. But nevertheless, it's a celebration of what the English countryside, the UK countryside can put on for free. It's a natural display. That's why I call it the living heritage. It's been here probably thousands of years. Nobody knows how long. I'm guessing at that, but probably since the end of the last ice age. They're British native plants. We call them bluebells. They've had 4 scientific names since I've been born. The latest one is Hyanthus non-scriptus, and I think that's about to change as well. But the bluebells don't. They laugh at humans, probably.
But bluebell, that's really what they are, aren't they? And we've got this carpet of colour here, the beautiful blue, and what a privilege to see it.
And all the little flowers are all hanging demurely to one side. There are interlopers called Spanish bluebells, and they have the flowers all the way around the stem, but this is the real thing. Occasionally, if we walked out into the display, you'd find a white one, occasionally a pink one, and I used to go hunting for those as a young boy. But just a few more days, they'll be fully out, and then they'll go very quickly this year, because virtually there's no rain in the imminent forecast for us. So it's fingers crossed, rain dance time imminent, and there we are. We'll do our best to hope we get some rainfall. Matthew, you can see the soil type there. It's still gravelly, sandy soil, but a little bit more moisture. But these won't be here long this year. Look at those. They're only 4 inches high and in full flower.
They're really stunted, aren't they?
Yes. There we are.
Bluebells and swallows today, Chris. It all comes at once.
I know, yes. Come on, Rat. In the truck. Next stop.
So much beauty to behold at this time of the year. I love it. And the sun is out, but there's cloud as well. It's just a classic spring morning. And we'll come to another corner of the farm. I know where we are, Chris. This is Notre Dame Wood, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's planted in 1990 by the children of Notre Dame School in Norwich. It's almost exactly a hectare, so that's 2.5 acres, and there's a total of about 1,000 trees, mainly British native trees, and that's what we're doing. We're celebrating things in flower. And there's 2 rather head-scratching ones here for us this morning. There's a large clump of blackthorn in front of us, which is just about finished flowering. I walk through the centre of this wood every morning and walk up the side of the road here, giving Rat his early morning walk and picking up the litter. And over the last few mornings, the shrub in front of us, which is blackthorn, is just about finished flowering now.
The flowers have just gone over a little, haven't they?
Yes, but it was just glorious. It's a dense, tangled shrub of blackthorns and sort of really black-coloured wood almost on it. Oh, pigeons just flown out from the middle of it. It's got
All the
a nest.
birds love that.
It's
don't
got
they?
a nest in there. It's a really good, safe shrub to nest in. It doesn't stay where it was planted, and the children of Notre Dame School left this area unplanted as bare, and it's kind of self-colonised. And just coming out over the top of it is a sort of a named cousin, if you like, and not closely related to what we're going to visit at the other end of the wood. We're going to walk through in a moment, and that's called bird cherry. It's a British native. It doesn't really produce cherries. I don't know quite how it got its name.
But we've got white flowers,
Yes.
different shaped flower heads to the blackthorn there.
Yes, they're kind of cylindrical, rather like a fat cigar standing upright on the stems.
And it's more like a tree.
It is a sort of in the shrub layer. It's done really well. It's had to grow out through and above the blackthorn, so normally they wouldn't get quite that high. 20 foot's about the maximum. You'll often see it in the understory. And also just a bit behind there's some ash trees, and the rooks have started to nest in there as well. So we've got our own nest. British native trees. Some of these look as though they've been in forever, Matthew, and this is field maple, really soft, very delicate foliage just coming out, and it will come into flower quite shortly. A few coniferous trees as well planted. We've got larch here in front of us, Larix decidua.
It really is mature now, this, isn't it?
It is. Look, it's a feeling of a mature woodland, as you quite rightly say, as we walk through.
And this just used to be the corner of a field, did it?
It was really steep, and that's the reason we kind of donated the tree area, if you like, the woodland. The land obviously still belongs to the farm, to the children to actually see, and they did it as a project, to sort of record the biodiversity here, how it changed from arable field to woodland, what all the changes are. And about 12 years ago, a photographer was here, and he, just as he was leaving, on the sign at the entrance which says Notre Dame Wood beside us here, a little owl perched. And he got the picture, and it's on the entrance, or it certainly was, at the reception of Notre Dame School, Athene Noctua. And just down behind the coniferous trees you can see some freshly dug sand there, and that's a fox earth, and there are 4 fox cubs there, and mum or dad are bringing food for them.
That's quite a big hole, isn't it?
It is. Again, you can see what we're walking on underneath us is pure sand underneath here. So it's a really well-established area of woodlands, and Scots pine. The pines don't mind the dry weather quite so much, although they're not deep-rooted trees. And just in the background there, so I wonder we haven't been sworn at by the rooks. Their females are still incubating. I think there's about 4 nests, and it's a kind of breakaway portion of the main rookery on Caister Park, quite close to where we are.
There's some hives over there.
Yes, 2 beehives. There's a beekeeper. And he's not doing too well, really. He calls himself, if he calls me, so I'm your crap beekeeper, he says. His bees keep dying.
Oh dear, but he's learning, is he?
He's doing really well, and he did give me half a dozen pounds of honey as a thank you for having the hives here. So, look, we've come to the other end of the wood. It's surrounded by what was a newly planted hedge with some hazel, hawthorn, a few blackthorn dotted in as well. And out in the woodland there's some open areas, and we've come to the south edge. Again, the rabbits have been digging, sandy
Look
soil.
at this down here.
Look at this. And again, this...
It's like Swiss cheese.
It is here. You have to be careful where you walk. Ground ivy in flower, little red dead nettle in flower. And look, I'll just do the same again. Pick a handful of the soil up, and dropping it out of my hand, and it's landing a yard away.
We've got some lovely white flowers here.
Yeah.
This is more blossom to tell us about.
Yes, this is called Gean, Gean, and it's wild cherry. It's, if you're out driving about, particularly in parks and places like that at the moment, the ornamental pink cherries are out in blossom.
Yes, you've got one next to the farm, haven't
Yes,
you?
I have. I planted it in one of the cottage gardens, and it's in full bloom right at the entrance of High Ash Farm. And this is its wild cousin. And of course, it's the close relation to all the cherries that we eat and enjoy. This does produce cherries, and later in the year, again, when we pick a few sloes, I may come here and I'll bring a large bottle. I've got some sort of little 4-pint bottles, which are very handy, and I fill that to the top with these little cherries. They're sometimes the cherries are yellow in colour, sometimes they've got a bit of a pink blush. They're much smaller than the commercial cherries that you'll buy at your local supermarket, and sometimes they're almost black. They're really unusual. This time of the year it's in full flower, but I sort of gather the cherries and pop them in one of these bottles, and then I get some fairly good quality brandy, a couple of Matthew's smiling, everybody, a couple of tablespoons of caster sugar, pop that in, and then I leave it for 3 or 4 months, and that's my cherry brandy made from wild cherries. Beautiful. But we're here to celebrate this tree. It's probably one of the most flamboyant British native trees of all our native trees. It's in blossom at the moment, and when you look up, if the sun's just gone in at the moment, but it's dazzling, and you look at it through against the blue sky in the background there, it is just glorious.
Looking up, you really get the sense that we're absolutely surrounded by these flowers and lovely white blooms.
Yes, absolutely incredible, and they do give quite a lot of pollen as well for bees too, so they're very attractive for insects, and they stay open at night. Little wren serenading us in the background there. So there we are. It's another one of those celebrations at this time of the year. Yeah, that wren's determined to get on this week's podcast. Just singing in the background. And when I walk through here every morning without fail, I can hear a blackcap singing early on, just after first light, and the rooks complaining at me every morning. But I do bring some food through for them, and they quickly leave the nest and come down and have a quick feast. We've got a stream running nearby at the bottom of the hill, which doesn't dry up, hopefully this year, and so that's water nearby for the young rooks.
But this 2.5 acres you conceived with the children back 30 years ago, more.
Yes.
This now is 2.5 acres of just pure wonderful habitat, isn't it?
It is, yes. And so occasionally the children that would have planted this, they'll have all grown up into adults now, and it's what they say out in the countryside, particularly on farms, that you don't plant a tree for yourself, you plant it for the next generation almost, and that's what's happened here. So they can...
Somewhere
that's
in there.
That's a dunnock, that one was. We've got a change of bird just a few feet from us, singing away.
All in that hedge.
Joyful.
In a hedge.
Or also called a hedge sparrow. Really unusual. Little cup-shaped nest with sky blue eggs. Yeah, they're really unusual colour. I used to find them as a child. It's a joyful little trill. But really unusual birds. But nevertheless, we're kind of celebrating spring and the journeys of those swallows that made. And I'm just going to do something unusual because on the farm we have some amazing people that walk and also sponsor us on the farm. And each morning I generally talk to one particular gentleman. He's called Charles. And we all know him as Stuart, and his surname is Fraser, so Stuart Fraser. And Stuart is doing something absolutely amazing. He's walking, wait for it, round the world. But he's doing it on High Ash Farm. 24,000 miles plus. He wants to complete it by his 80th birthday, which is in 4 years' time. He's just reached the west coast of Canada, although he's doing the proper circumference of the Earth. And so he's got to come across Canada, across the Atlantic, and finish again on his finishing line. Of course, it's never leaving the farm, and he does 4 miles every day of his life, fitness or not, whether he's feeling up to it. Absolutely amazing, and there's quite a story behind it. Perhaps I'll talk about it another day, but I'd just like to say, Stuart, congratulations. He lives locally, and we often celebrate the swallows coming up 5,000 miles. So Stuart's decided to top trump my swallows by doing the 24,000 miles, but all on one farm. And just amazing. So Stuart Fraser, congratulations, you've made it to Canada. Let's hope you can finish the rest of the journey by your 80th birthday. He's 76 at the moment.
Keep those hamstrings warm, my goodness.
Absolutely, yes. So what about that? So we're celebrating something slightly different there. The rat's been eating grass, which is not good. We're sitting there, and I've been watching that at the corner of my eye.
We had a green milkshake just now.
Yes, I think so. We won't go into that. It's breakfast time. Yeah.
Rooks nesting.
Complaining. I thought they would do. They've just spotted rat running back through the wood to the truck. And that was a rook swearing at us.
Quite secluded here, aren't they?
Yes, they are. It's beautifully quiet. Fox earth underneath them. There they are, up in the tree. Thank you to the children of Notre Dame School.
Just on our way out of Notre Dame Wood, Chris, and beautiful sound there. This is a friend of yours.
Yes, it's a blackcap, one of our early spring migrants. There's some evidence some of them are staying over the winter months with us, but generally most of the blackcaps, I thought it was then going to burst into song. And when I leave the wood every morning, it gives me a little serenade to say bye. It's a little bit later in the morning than usual, but it's followed us back out of the wood and singing all the way behind us. So a diminutive little brown bird with a male has a distinctive black cap, and it's set up Notre Dame Wood as its territory, one of our spring migrants. Beautiful little warbler.
We must have some emails to look at.
We have. Let's get back to the truck. Rat's already there and waiting. He'd read them out for us if we'd given half a chance.
Back in the truck, and Rat is happy.
He's fairly happy, yes. He's on my lap.
Thanks to everyone who's donated to the podcast. We can't say it often enough, but a big thank you to people being so generous towards keeping this project going, and the money goes towards conservation projects and the podcast itself, which is a sort of an audio conservation project, isn't it?
Yes, it's just a way of sharing the countryside with everybody who cares to listen, and it's a privilege to do it for me, and just brings a huge smile to my face. It's my office, if you like, and all I'm doing is sharing what's here and kind of what belongs to everybody, the native wildlife and the animals, the birds, the insects, and we kind of endeavour to explore all the different species throughout the year.
It's highashfarm.com. It's where you probably come to listen to the podcast. There's another section to find out about one-off donations or set up a monthly donation if you wish. We've got some wonderful emails here to enjoy. Look at this poem here. Now, this is Andrew in Stockport. As your podcasts have been such a lifeline for me these last few months, Chris, I wrote this poem, which I'm sure you'll appreciate. And this is called Lost Measures. Rods, poles and perches, furlongs, chains and acres, leagues, fathoms, inches, pints, quarts, gills, drummed into us at school every day. Not much use now, though. Hundredweights, ounces, pounds, gallons, grains and barleycorns, leagues, chains, stones. Went where? Wheat, beer, peas and coal, all measured out so carefully. How far was a yard?
Oh, goodness me. Well, the yard was drilled into me as well, 36 inches, but we still use some of them, some of those measurements. I've got a wonderful chain in the farm workshop, all marked out with rods, poles and perches. A rod is 5.5 yards long. So you can, there's 4 rods to the length of a chain, which is 22 yards. Matthew's smiling in because that's the length of a cricket pitch, exactly. And you can have a square rod as well, which is 22 yards by 22 yards. And so it's measured out like that, former measurement of land, and land has started to be sold again in acres, so don't despair too much. We went through a period a few years back where it's sold in hectares, and if a farm comes up for sale, often it's in acres now.
Sounds more then, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. 2.5 acres to 1 hectare. And don't forget that some of those old words still come into our language. If I'm scratching my head, I can't fathom it out. And also, the roding flight of a woodcock, it looks as though it's measuring out the distance around its territory on very slow beating wings. So it looks as though it's only flying 5.5 yards for each wing beat. So it's a normal woodcock, the wings actually whir so fast you can hardly see them. So there we are. So thank you very much for that. Lost measures. Well done.
Well done, Andrew. Here's one from Jan and Dave in St Augustine's. We went for a ramble this afternoon, found a spot by a wood and next to a stream where the woods were alive with birdsong. So we used the identifying app on our phone, and there was a list of 7 species came up listening to it, but one was an example none of us had ever heard of before, neither of us. It was a dusky warbler. This app has always been so accurate before. I have to believe that was what we were hearing. Do you think it was mistaken?
Well, possibly, because if the recording was done at High Ash Farm, and I'm not sure if that's where it was, we just heard a very regular warbler here, and I've heard people call the blackcap a dusky warbler. Now, there can be some confusion because there are lots of warbler species, but the blackcap has a sort of greyish, dull plumage with the black head, and the female does look very dusky, but it's the male that we just recorded singing by sheer coincidence. So I'd love to know what you did actually record, and sometimes these apps a mile out. When there's lots of birds singing, they get a bit muddled.
Forget about apps, just bring Chris Skinner with you.
Yeah, that's right. Put me in your pocket.
Jan and Dave says, we love your podcast, Chris. May they continue forever.
Oh, thank you very much. That's wonderful. That is my ambition. Come haunt you after I'm in the churchyard.
Jane Nicholson says, lovely to bump into Chris on his tractor at High Ash. I was taking my sister for a walk round as she's never been before, and she loved it. We spotted 7 hares and 4 deer, 2 of which looked like very young ones, so we couldn't quite manage the 13. Myself and Kai have seen 13 hares the previous Friday, so he was extremely excited. I do have a question. We put up a new birch log nest box in a sheltered position high up under a pergola in the garden, but I've noticed the bark has gone from a couple of areas on it. Could this be the work of a squirrel or a woodpecker?
Almost certainly the squirrel. Grey squirrels are notorious for breaking into bird boxes, particularly when they're occupied and you've got the young birds in there, or even if there's eggs in there, the squirrel will either enlarge the hole in the nest box or bite through from the side where the wood is thin. So they are a bit of a pest like that. And woodpeckers can also be responsible. They have some very bad habits, especially high ash woodpeckers, of stealing young bird chicks out of hole nesting birds like blue tits and grey tits.
Here's a nice one from Lynn Dutton, who's sent a message in to say she enjoys the podcast, highlighting the beautiful British countryside. And Chris, your explanations make me feel that I'm really there. Can't wait to visit the farm when we have friends in Norfolk in the summer.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lynn, for that. You'll always be welcome. The farm's open 24/7, but choose an early morning when the sun's shining, and you'll always be rewarded.
And Gillian Handyside, ring ouzels on passage at the quarry on Roydon Common near King's Lynn on Easter Monday. So that's only a few days ago, isn't it? We saw a pair, male and female. There may be up to 5 there, though. Snipe drumming as well, oyster catchers nesting, stone chat, and what appeared to be an albino red kite. At least that's all I could make it out to be. So Gillian's been seeing plenty.
Yes, down in France there, but she's obviously up at Roydon Common recently, and it's quite something to see ring ouzels, which are we call them mountain blackbirds because they look like a blackbird. The male has this sort of white gorget, like a moon shape, just round the neck, and it's a member of the thrush family, and about the same size as a blackbird, but far, far less common. So the males are very striking, but you'll more often find them in the northern half of the country. But to hear snipe drumming, that is a red letter day. Well done.
You're getting brownie points there from Mr. Skinner.
Me, yes.
Questions, comments, whatever you like, send them along. The more the merrier. Our email address, chris@highashfarm.com. Shall we foregather again for another podcast same time next week?
Yes, I'll see you then. I'll be ready and waiting, and the countryside is bursting. I've already got 4 or 5 topics in my head. I'm having a job to keep pace with spring this year. So that will certainly put a spring in my step. So I'll look forward to this time next week.